Today I want to take on the unenviable task of trying to describe the world's greatest multi-tool in 2025. Now you would think after years, several hundred years of multi-tools, that there would be some perfect multi-tool maybe made in Spain or the far reaches of Italy or Europe or even early America like this one right here, that had interchangeable heads that you could change out. That would be the perfect multi-tool no one has ever heard about, and it's out there just waiting to be found. Well, so far, I haven't found it. Even though this one is really cool, and you can see some of the interchangeable heads right there on the advertisement on the box. You can see some of the options inside the box, and I've got a full video where I talked about this. This is a very cool tool, but again, it has a limitation. It's not the perfect multi-tool. Rather, the perfect multi-tool, I think, has been around for a long time, and you probably are very familiar with it. Now, when we try to narrow things down, when money is not an option, I think essentially the two brands that we just come down to right away are Victorinox and Leatherman, just because of warranty. When you have to add warranty in there and then quality of material, I think that basically obliterates pretty much all the other brands. It just comes down to Leatherman and Victorinox, which have the best warranty and they have the best craftsmanship at the time of this recording in 2025. Perhaps later on, in a couple years, things will change, but at this moment, that seems to be the best. Other companies are catching up very, very quickly, but I still feel like out of the box, these two have the best quality and the best overall warranty that's established at this time. Now with Victorinox, there are a couple reasons. Maybe most of them are mostly personal, but these are reasons why I don't choose Victorinox as the number one tool. First of all, I do find the Victorinox frame a little dated in that it still uses these rivets. So what that means is if the factory doesn't have your multi-tool perfectly peened just the right amount, either your tools are too tight and you can't do too much about it, or they're too loose and you can't do too much about it, or your pliers are too tight or loose. And I feel like that's a little frustrating. There's no adjustment that you can make. Also, you can't make you can't switch out the tools without, totally drilling these out and a lot of work. So accessories, you can't really accessorize this. That's not a huge deal for most people. I really don't like that it doesn't have a 1/4 inch bit driver, or it doesn't even have the Leatherman bit driver that you can use 1/4 inch adapters in, or adapters that go to 1/4 inch. Now, I know you can use an adapter on the Phillips. I know you can get a separate bit kit that comes with some of these, but this is just personal things why I do not pick this as number one for me. I just feel like still, even though the MX clip right here, the Victorinox Spirit, is a lot easier to access than my older one, I feel like it's still not as easy as Leatherman. Now, one of the things I've noticed with this is it's harder for me to access, especially if my hands are cold. It's harder to access the external tools, where things like the Leatherman Arc are a lot easier to access. So it's little things like that. This is a great design, but I feel like it is showing its age. And Victorinox, if they want to be number one, they need to change this design a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. And so those are some of the reasons why this right here does not become number one for me. There's no T-shank adapter. There's not some of the things that we have just come to expect with some of the Leatherman tools. It is great, but to me, it's not the end-all tool that I would buy, either the Spirit or the Swiss tool, the larger Swiss tool. It's just not the number one for me. All right, so what that does is that brings it down in my book to between the Leatherman Arc and the Leatherman Surge. Now, wow, that's a huge jump, right? So here we've gone from all the multi-tools, and I've just decided it's between Victorinox and Leatherman. Is that correct? Well, it's fine if you like SOG. It's fine if you like Gerber or some of the other brands of tools. Roxxon, Next Tool, they're making some great tools. There's Goat Tool out there. That's fine if you would choose as your number one tool. I'm just saying, for the moment, I feel like Leatherman is one of the most established brands. It's got some of the best quality still. I know there's been some issues, but overall, it does seem to have still some of the best quality, the best warranty, and the best ergonomics because these tools have been out a while. There have been some improvements continually made, and they function better in the pocket than a lot of other tools. So for me, these are the two tools. If I could only pick one, money's not an option, I would pick either the Leatherman Surge or the Leatherman Arc. So why am I limiting the greatest multi-tool in the world to either the Leatherman Arc or the Leatherman Surge? Well, that's a good question. There are a ton of other options. There's the P4, the P2, and the Free Series, but I feel like the Leatherman Arc is the best of all the Free Series, so that's why this is here. What about things like the Charge and the Wave and the Super Tool? Well, those are all great options as well, but again, I feel like the Leatherman Surge is the best option in a situation. It can do more than the Charge. It can do more than the Wave. Now you would say, well, maybe you would say the Charge has a better knife blade sometimes. That's true. But again, because of the T-shank adapter, I feel like you have a lot more options over the Charge. So that's why I think it comes down to the Surge and the Arc are the best of the two routes that Leatherman is taking with their multi-tool brand. Now, I'm going to pick the Surge. Spoiler alert, I'm going to pick the Surge. And for the next couple of minutes, I'm going to explain to you why I would pick the Surge still over the Leatherman Arc if these were the only two tools I could pick. Now, the Leatherman Surge is $100 cheaper, but that's not really, money's not going to play a part in this because the challenge is money's not an option. So we're talking about other things. So let's go through some of the reasons why I still, even against the Leatherman Arc, pick the Leatherman Surge. So I personally prefer the Surge because, again, I have used it for a very long time. That's part of the reason. In the past now, I essentially don't carry it because I'm always testing out either tools that I'm creating in a Frankenstein way or tools I'm testing for the channel. I'm usually carrying other tools to see if I can make anything better than this or if there's anything on the market better than this. And so far, even though I've liked some of the creations that I've come across, either bought or made myself, nothing has really topped the Leatherman Surge for me. If I was going for a tool that could pretty much do it all. Now, the Leatherman Surge, again, I'm more comfortable with the plier head because to me, it still seems a little bit more robust. Yes, Leatherman says that the Arc plier head is maybe the best they've ever made, but personally, I have used my Leatherman Surge with these older style cutters, and I have actually cut through some thinner sheet metal doing residential HVAC. So I have a bunch of faith in these. These right here are monsters. They do a fantastic job. I have cut and crimped and done all kinds of things with these plier heads that shouldn't be done. I have probably used them and abused them far more than Leatherman would ever want me to, and they have done a great job. So personally, I have a lot of faith in my Leatherman Surge. Now, the Leatherman Arc is great. I don't know. I haven't tested out as much, and I'm a little scared to test it out at its price point. I don't want to lose it for $250. and it may do just as good. But just for me, I guess it's more of a trust issue to begin with, and the Leatherman Surge just seems a little bit more robust in my book, especially when we look at the end of the pliers. Leatherman Surge still seems a little bit larger, and I trust it a little bit more. Now, secondly, the thing that a lot of people don't like, it doesn't really bother me as much, but I will throw this in there, is magnetic architecture on the Leatherman Arc. Now, I do feel like when you tear apart the Leatherman Arc, I haven't really got into doing that yet, but when I've seen other people do it, there's a little bit more to it on the Leatherman Arc than the Leatherman Surge. And usually when you have a little bit more complicated mechanism, it can fail a little bit easier. So that is a little bit concerning to me. Also, the magnetic architecture, some people have said that that creates issues with metal shavings. Never run into that personally, but I know that does concern other people, so that's something to consider. And then I think one of the huge things for me and for others is the T-shank adapter. So maybe I should go back and explain my thought process a little bit. If I could only have one multi-tool, let's say just one for a trip to the end of the earth, I'm not going to pick the smallest multi-tool because it's pocketable. I'm going to deal with a little bit of extra weight, the 12 or so ounces that the Surge is. I'm going to be fine with that because I want the most capable tool. Now, if I can buy a ton of tools, yeah, I'll probably pick a lighter tool, sometimes like the Victorinox Spirit. I'll do that. But if I can only pick one, I'm going to go bigger and more robust with the Leatherman Surge, because there will be times when I will need a bigger multi-tool rather than all the other times when I need a lighter tool. I can just maybe carry a knife in those instances, but at least I have a multi-tool somewhere, maybe in a pack, maybe in the car, whatever. But if I can only have one multi-tool, again, I'll probably go bigger. Now, I feel like the T-shank adapter in the Leatherman Surge is a huge issue. It's a huge plus. And yes, you can get that on the Leatherman Arc, but again, that's even extra money. It's $100 extra to buy the Leatherman Arc, and then you have to spend an extra, $50, $100 or so to get the T-shank adapter, and then all the pain of putting it in where the Leatherman Surge comes with it. And now you can get scalpel blades that fit in this, and so you can have a third extra blade. There are times when maybe a tool will break, maybe you don't have time to send it back in. I know my brother, as an electrician, he says he uses his multi-tool all the time, and he says he doesn't want to spend the time to send it back in. So it's great for him to have the extra option to have the extra blade. Not only do you have the straight blade, you've got the serrated blade. You can even have the scalpel blade. Also with the T-shank adapter, I see this as in the future becoming a great modular tool option, in that I think perhaps in the future we'll see things like a laser level being made for this. I don't know. I'm just guessing. Maybe a flashlight, as battery technology gets smaller and lasts longer and can power brighter lights. I think that perhaps we'll see almost like a full carry flashlight be able to fit in the T-shank adapter, and then you won't have to carry a multi-tool and a flashlight. And so even if this is a lot heavier, you may carry this because you can have your full everyday carry flashlight in there. I don't know if that will be ever an option, but who knew that years later computers would be so small? So I see flashlights as going that same path. They keep getting smaller and smaller. When I was young, we carried huge mag lights. Now that's not a thing. So I think definitely the day is coming when a flashlight will fit in here. Not only a flashlight, maybe a laser level, wire stripper, full micrometer set with LED readout, not just like the one from PC Doodle, but maybe even a more advanced one they'll come out with in the future. I don't know. I think there are all kinds of potential possibilities where this T-shank adapter will actually make the Leatherman Surge far greater tool than it already is. I think it's untapped potential at the moment. Now, there are a lot of other reasons why we could say that the Leatherman Surge might be a little bit better than the Arc, but let me give two. They won't seem a big deal to some people, but the roller markings, I actually do find in a pinch, I need a multi-tool with roller markings. Sometimes I'm trying to just get a rough idea of a filter size, maybe a bolt, maybe the opening to an area. I don't know if a motor's gone bad, maybe a spindle size, and I just need a rough estimate. It doesn't have to be perfect, and if I have a multi-tool marking, I can at least get a guesstimate. And with a Leatherman Surge, you have that. With a Leatherman Arc, you don't. And I think that's a huge missed opportunity. It doesn't take that much to put roller markings on a multi-tool, which I'm just not quite sure why they overlook that, but I guess they figured it wasn't that important. To me, this is all day long, far more important than a can opener, roller markings. That's something I still use, in the trades. So yeah, I think that's a huge missed opportunity on the Leatherman Arc. Now I know Zap Wizard, I think, is doing laser engraving or something like that. I saw on his website he had a video on it for the Leatherman Arc, which is great. But again, I'm not counting that in because it doesn't come standard. Also, this will not be a big deal to some people, but this screwdriver right here, as someone in the trades, is a huge deal. There are still a lot of old-fashioned screwdrivers, or bolts rather, that need a tool like this. There's even equipment on furnaces and so forth where you need a large flathead screwdriver. And on the Leatherman Arc, you have some screwdrivers, which are fairly nice, but they're not near as big as the Leatherman Surge. And that may seem like a small thing, but sometimes it's one tool that we pick. We pick a whole tool because it has just the tool that we need. And maybe it's just me, but I find that this flat screwdriver is excellent and really makes the Leatherman Surge just a cut above other tools sometimes. So wrapping this up, what are the final conclusions? Well, I think either with the Leatherman Arc or the Leatherman Surge, you're doing great. You have one of the best multi-tools in the world. I think you are in great hands, but I have to say, I still feel like the Leatherman Surge, even though it has some of this older technology, it's not been updated for a while, I still feel like it has some options that make it still the king to this day. I still think it's the best. That's my personal opinion. I think the Arc is very, very close. Yes, it has a MagnaCut blade. Why haven't I talked about that? Well, I think the MagnaCut blade is offset because you have the possibility of 3 blades with the Leatherman Surge. Not only the regular blade, the normal blade that comes here, not only the serrated blade, but you have the option with a T-shank holder to put a scalpel in there. And as good as the Leatherman Arc is a MagnaCut, when you have the option of 3 blades against 1, I still feel like that wins in the end, because even MagnaCut can break. It can have an issue. Perhaps you're in a place where you can't sharpen your knife blade. I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. And I feel like the Leatherman Surge in the end is still the winner.